Oshi it's definitely not what you thought it was when you watched the first episode. A 90-minute premiere that ends in a way nobody was ready for, and then the story keeps going, and it gets darker, and weirder, and more uncomfortable. We're gonna go through all of it, every arc, every character, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think about each one, why this story is either a masterpiece or a complete mess depending on which chapter we're talking about. 2 hours, sit down. His name is Goro Amamiya. He works as a gynecologist at a small rural hospital somewhere far from Tokyo, far from the entertainment industry, far from anything that would seem, on the surface, connected to the story that follows. His life is quiet, routine, not unhappy, but not particularly eventful either. And Goro has a hobby. He is a devoted fan of an idol named Hoshino. Now, before we go any further, I want to stop and actually explain what that means, because idol fan in Japan is not quite the same thing as celebrity fandom in the Western sense, and understanding the difference matters enormously for everything this story is doing. Japanese idol culture runs on a very specific performance. Female idols, particularly, are expected to project a sense of emotional closeness to their fans, not romantic closeness in any explicit sense, something more like accessible warmth, the feeling that she knows you exist, that she genuinely cares about you specifically, even though she has hundreds of thousands of fans and you are one face in an enormous crowd. The entire system is built on making that feeling seem real, and woven into all of that is a rule, unspoken but universally understood. Idols don't have romantic lives. They can't be seen dating. They can't have a visible private life at all, really. The appeal is built on a kind of constructed purity, the idea that she belongs to everyone, in the soft emotional sense, and therefore to no one specific in the real sense. That is the world Goro is participating in as a fan. And to his credit, he participates in it with clear eyes. He is not deluded. He does not believe Ai knows he exists. He is an adult who understands what a parasocial relationship is. He buys her merchandise, he follows her work, he finds something in her performances that brings genuine warmth into a life that, reading between the lines, is probably somewhat solitary. Goro is a good person, I think. He is someone you would never look twice at in real life. Someone doing a quiet, important job, far from any spotlight, carrying his private joys without bothering anyone about them. There is something genuinely tender about him before the story has even done anything to make you care about him. He just feels like a real person. The kind of real person this genre usually does not take the time to draw, and then a patient comes to his hospital. She is young, visibly pregnant, clearly not local. She registers under a false name and asks for discretion with every gesture without ever saying the word directly. She is frightened in the specific way that someone is frightened when they are not afraid of physical danger but of exposure, of being seen by the wrong person, of the wrong information reaching the wrong ears. Goro, being the kind of doctor he is, does not pry. He does his job. He treats his patient. And then he sees her face clearly and realizes he is standing in a small rural examination room with the most famous idol in Japan, Ai Hoshino, pregnant, hiding, alone, looking nothing like the performed version of herself that exists on stages and in promotional materials and in the dreams of her fan base. I want to pause on this moment because I think it is doing something very specific and very important. Goro has spent his adult life loving an image that was constructed for him to love, that was calibrated to make him feel exactly what he feels, that exists in a specific register of emotional distance, close enough to feel meaningful, far enough to be safe. That is the idol. That is what he loves. And now the actual person is sitting in front of him, pregnant and scared and completely at odds with everything the image represents. The story is doing something very cruel here actually, in the best possible way. It is showing Goro, and showing us, the gap. The distance between what the idol is and what the person is, all at once, with no transition period, no gradual reveal, just, here it is. Look at the space between these two things. Look at how much was missing from what you thought you knew. And Goro does the right thing. He separates his identity as a fan from his identity as a doctor, holds her secret, and just cares for his patient, which is when the relationship between them starts to become something more real than patient and doctor, and also something entirely different from idol and fan. Now, Ai Hoshino. I need to talk about Ai properly, because she is, in my honest opinion, one of the most beautifully written female characters I have encountered in this genre. And I say that knowing she does not survive the prologue. I say that knowing she is dead before the story's main narrative even properly begins. She gets less screen time than almost any character with her level of importance. And somehow she still manages to be the emotional center of the entire story in a way that every subsequent arc is defined by. That is extraordinary writing. Here is who Ai actually is. She is the lead performer of the idol group Bikomachi. She is young, breathtakingly beautiful, naturally magnetic in the way that some performers are, where you cannot fully explain why you cannot look away from them. It is just there. Her eyes have stars in them, literally rendered that way in the manga's visual language, because she is someone whose passion for performing is visible, legible, real. When she is on stage, something genuinely alive is happening, and she loves performing. That part is not a performance, it is the truest thing about her professional life. She gives herself to the stage without reservation. She is not going through the motions. When Ai is performing, she is fully, completely present in a way that audiences feel without being able to articulate why they feel it. It is the difference between watching someone execute choreography and watching someone live inside of it. But AI cannot say she loves her fans and actually mean it. This is the core of her tragedy, and I want to make sure it lands. She has a deep, structural difficulty with love, with feeling it, with knowing whether what she experiences qualifies as the real thing, with connecting the word to the sensation in any way that makes her feel like she is telling the truth. She can say the words. She says them constantly, on stage and in interviews and in every fan interaction. I love you all. You're everything to me. I live to perform for you. But she knows privately, in the place where she is honest with herself, that she does not mean them. And that knowledge of performing love she cannot genuinely feel is something she carries in silence, somewhere underneath the sparkle. It does not make her a bad person. It does not make her a fraud in any simple sense. It makes her someone whose talent has outpaced her capacity to connect to what the talent is supposed to express. There is something heartbreaking about that before anything bad has even happened. A person who can give the world something beautiful without being able to fully receive beauty herself. A person who stands in front of thousands of people who love her and cannot genuinely love them back. Not because she is cold or selfish, but because she simply doesn't know how. Hold that detail, because it is going to become the most important thing in the story. Ai is pregnant with twins. The father is someone from within the entertainment industry. His identity is a mystery the story holds carefully in reserve, a question that functions as one of the central engines of everything that follows. We will spend a very long time finding out who he is. For now, what matters is what the pregnancy means. If it becomes public, her career is over, completely, irreversibly over. The constructed identity her entire career is built on, purity, availability, the performance of belonging to everyone, shatters the moment anyone outside her immediate circle knows those children exist. She is not just facing a scandal, she is facing the end of everything she has built, and possibly her safety, because idol culture's tolerance for reality is essentially zero, so she hides. She came to this rural hospital specifically because it is far enough from Tokyo that the chances of being recognized feel manageable. She is relying on distance as protection, but distance only protects you from people who don't know you. Goro knows her, he knows exactly who she is, and he chooses quietly and without drama to keep her secret. Not as leverage, not because she is his favorite idol, and this gives him access to her, not for any complicated reason. He keeps it because she is his patient, and she is frightened, and his job is to protect the people who come to him. That is it. That is the whole reason. And I, who lives in a world where almost every relationship is mediated by her public identity, where people want something from her constantly, where genuine trust is extraordinarily rare, I begins, slowly, to trust him. She comes back, she talks to him, she lets something real be present in their conversations, in a way she cannot allow it to be present almost anywhere else, and Goro experiences the thing every fan secretly imagines, but almost never encounters, the real person behind the image. The actual human being that exists in the space the performance never shows. And the real person is not the image. She is more fragile than the image, more confused, more lost in certain ways. But she is also more genuinely interesting, more genuinely worth knowing and caring about. Because she is real. And real is always richer than constructed, even when constructed is beautiful. The twins are born, a boy and a girl. The boy is named Aquamarine, Aqua. The girl is named Ruby. And here the story does the thing that nobody who picks this up expecting a quiet drama about idol culture could possibly be prepared for. The boy is a reincarnation. He is the reincarnation of Goro Amamiya, the doctor, the fan, the man who protected her secret and watched over her pregnancy, and found himself, without planning to, genuinely caring about a person he had previously only known as an idol. Before the twins were born, Goro was murdered. Someone pushed him from a height. There is no long goodbye, no dramatic build-up. The story is almost brutal in its efficiency here. He is alive, and then he is not. And then, he wakes up as a newborn in the arms of Hoshino, carrying every memory, every adult thought, every conscious awareness of who she is, and what her life looks like, and what the entertainment industry is. An adult man's complete consciousness inside an infant's body, looking up at the woman he spent his adult life admiring from a careful distance. Now his mother, the reincarnation of the girl twin, Ruby, is someone named Sarina. a teenage patient of Goro's who was terminally ill and who adored Ai with the total consuming passion of a young fan who has decided that a specific idol is the most important thing in the world. For Sarina, Ai was not entertainment. Ai was proof that life was worth experiencing even when your own was very difficult. Her performances were evidence that joy and beauty existed in the world and were accessible even to people who were suffering. Now Sarina is Ruby, and Ruby's relationship to Ai is simpler, warmer, more direct than Aqua's. She loves her mother with uncomplicated joy, wants to follow her onto the stage one day, wants to be the kind of light for someone else that Ai was for her in a previous life. There is something genuinely sweet about Ruby that I think sometimes gets overshadowed by how much narrative weight the story puts on Aqua. Ruby's love for Ai is honest in a way that is almost refreshing. Aqua's is more complicated, because Aqua comes in already carrying adult complexity, adult grief, adult awareness of everything that surrounds his mother's life. He cannot just be a child who loves his mother. He is also an adult who loved her differently from outside, from the position of someone who had no real access to her. And now he has total access. He is inside her life completely. He sees her as she actually is, and what he sees is, I want to say this carefully, genuinely beautiful. Because what Ai discovers through her children is the thing she could never find in her career. She discovers she can love, not performed love, not professional warmth, actual, specific, involuntary, completely overwhelming love for these two small specific people who are hers, who exist because of her, who need her to be real. Not an image, not a performance, but actually genuinely present and real. For the first time in her life, she can be that. She knows she is being that, and something inside her that had been shut for reasons she probably could not fully explain, maybe since childhood, maybe since before she can remember, opens. She still cannot tell anyone. The children remain a secret. The career requires the fiction. She carries her real life in a private space that almost no one is allowed into, but inside that space, she is more herself than she has ever been anywhere else. Aqua sees all of it. With the full awareness of his adult consciousness, he watches his mother discover love through him and his sister. He watches the idol become a person, completely, in real time, and he loves her. As her son, with everything he has, with the full weight of who he was before reoriented into something new. It is one of the most quietly moving emotional arcs I can think of in recent manga, and it barely takes up any space. It exists in the margins of a story that is also doing many other things at once. But if you pay attention to it, to what Ai's motherhood actually means for who she is and what she could never access before, it breaks your heart in a very specific way. I want to stop here and answer the question you might be asking, which is, why reincarnation? What does it actually add? It is a strange choice for a story about the entertainment industry. Reincarnation narratives exist in plenty of other manga, but usually in fantasy contexts. Dropping it into what initially looks like a realistic drama about Japanese pop culture is genuinely disorienting. And I think it is disorienting on purpose, for reasons that are worth unpacking. The first thing reincarnation gives the story is perspective. The distance between an idol and her fan is absolute. It is built into the structure of what that relationship is. You see the performance, you do not see the person. That is the deal. That is how idol culture works. By turning the fan into the sun, the story collapses that distance entirely. The person who loved her from outside is suddenly inside. He knows her not as a performance, but as a human being. He sees her private life, her private self, the version of her that exists when no one who matters is watching. And what he sees confirms something the story is arguing very clearly. The real person is richer than the constructed image. More interesting, more worthy of genuine love. The idol is less than I, but we are almost never given access to the real I. The access has to be manufactured, and reincarnation is the tool the story uses to manufacture it. The second thing it gives the story is weight. Aqua is not a child who lost his mother. He is a person who loved her across two different kinds of relationship, first as a fan, then as a son, and then lost her both times. That is a specific grief that would simply not exist without the reincarnation device. And it is that grief, in its full specific weight, that makes Aqua's obsession feel inevitable rather than excessive. I'll be honest, I have complicated feelings about Aqua. I don't dislike him exactly, but I find myself frustrated with him in ways that build as the story goes on, for reasons I will get into more as we cover later arcs. But in the prologue, in this moment of loss, he earns your sympathy completely. Whatever reservations I develop about him later, I cannot take this moment away from him. He watches his mother die. He is a small child with an adult's understanding of exactly what he just lost, and then he decides to do something about it. That decision is where everything begins. Before Ai dies, Aqua sees something. He sees the person responsible. He sees a fan, someone who constructed an obsessive, possessive, dangerously unstable attachment to Ai's image, someone who found out about the children and interpreted their existence as a betrayal of everything he believed she owed him, standing where he should not be, having information he should not have. And Aqua, even in the immediate horror of what is happening, notices something. This fan should not have been able to find her. The information that led him here, the secret that the children existed, the location of where I was, that information had to come from somewhere. From someone with access to the industry, to Ai's inner circle, to the details of her private life. There is a father, somewhere in the entertainment industry. A man whose identity is one of the story's central mysteries. And Aqua, in the moments after the worst thing he has ever experienced, decides that the father, or someone connected to him, is responsible for what just happened. Which means this is not just a tragedy, it is something someone caused. And Aqua, carrying his mother's death in his chest like something that will never fully stop burning, makes a decision that will define everything about his life going forward. He is going to find the father, he is going to uncover the truth, he is going to find everyone responsible for this, and he is going to take them apart. Revenge. Let's talk about Ai's death for a moment, because I think it deserves more than just a narrative summary. I think it deserves to be understood for what it actually is. Ai Hoshino is killed by love. Not real love. A broken, consuming, possessive version of attachment that mistook consuming a performance for knowing a person. The fan who kills her did it because her existence as a private human being, with children, with relationships, with a life outside the stage, felt like a betrayal of something she owed him. That logic is monstrous, but the story asks you to understand where it comes from. Idol culture, in the way this story frames it, runs on a specific kind of lie. The idol performs closeness she does not have. She performs love she cannot fully feel. She performs a version of herself, pure, available, exclusively and equally devoted to each individual fan. That is a construction rather than a reality, and the audience consumes it as though it were truth, because the system is designed to blur that distinction. Most fans navigate this without becoming dangerous. Most fans are Goro. People who understand what they are participating in and find genuine value in it anyway. People who can hold the performance and the person as separate things. The joy of fandom is real. The connection fans feel to each other. The community built around shared admiration. The genuine delight in watching someone talented do something beautiful. None of that is bad or false. But the system that produces that joy does not protect against the person who cannot make that separation. The person who confuses the image with a real relationship. The person who builds their entire emotional architecture around the constructed version of the idol and then cannot tolerate the evidence that a real person exists underneath with a real life that was never theirs to claim. AI was never truly seen as a person by that world. She was a product. And the system that made her a product created the exact conditions that allowed someone to believe her private life was something he had the right to punish. That is what the first episode of Oshinoko is actually about. Underneath the sparkle, underneath the pink stars. That is the argument it is making. And it makes it through the death of someone who, in the final moments of her life, says the most honest thing she has ever said. She tells her children she loves them. She means it. Completely. Without performance. Without construction. Without the gap between the word and the feeling that defined her entire career. Just a mother, dying, telling the people who taught her what love actually was that she loves them. It is the only truly pure moment she ever gets, and the story gives it to her at the very end. I love Ai Hoshino. I think she is one of the best characters in this story, and I think the story knows it, which is why it haunts everything that comes after with her absence. She deserved more. She deserved to live long enough to actually have the life she was just starting to understand how to want. The tragedy of her character is not just that she died. It is that she died right at the moment she was finally becoming fully alive. So here is where we stand at the end of the prologue. We have a world, the Japanese entertainment industry, that runs on performed emotion and constructed identity. We have a woman who was consumed by that world and killed by the mechanism at the center of it. We have two children who are also reincarnated souls, each carrying a different kind of love for the woman they now have to live without. And we have Aqua, a cold, purposeful, grief sharpened into something that looks like a plan, pointing himself at the entertainment industry like a weapon. The story has established everything it needs to sustain hundreds of chapters of narrative, the mystery of the father, the question of what real versus performed emotion looks like and costs, the gap between who people are and who they perform being, Ruby's dream built on love, Aqua's mission built on loss. These are not separate themes that will be explored in isolation. They are the same theme, turning over and over, examined from every angle the story can find. Every character introduced from this point forward will connect to at least one of these questions. Every arc will be another attempt to look at the same central problem from a different direction. What does it cost a person to perform something they cannot genuinely feel? What happens when the audience mistakes the performance for the person? What do we owe the dead, and what does owing the dead do to the living? Ai is gone, but she is the most present absence in the entire story. She is there in Ruby's eyes every time Ruby steps toward a stage. She is there in Aqua's chest every every time he moves another piece on the board he is building. She is there in the shape of every question the story keeps asking about love and performance and the entertainment industry and what it means to be real in a world that keeps rewarding you for being constructed. She is the ghost at the center of everything, and that ghost is beautiful and heartbreaking and exactly where she belongs.